I click new stream. So I have to keep scheduling new stream to get the details in there.
Weird.
Oh, I can copy and reuse info from a recently completed
Oh,
stream.
okay.
Okay.
That works.
So it looks more confusing than it is.
Right.
Because it gives you the option to reuse old details.
Right.
And it initially looks like it's going to force you to redo everything, but then a new window comes up saying not. But it's still a lot harder for people to access the page.
Right.
Yeah, I guess they have to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then they'll get a
Right.
notification that like we're on or
It's,
something.
yeah. I was saying like, yeah, you might be able to change your channel ID, which is might be what it's displaying. Um, you would go to YouTube settings, account, or advanced settings. Oh, actually, never. I don't know. Actually, never mind. It doesn't give you the option to edit, just to copy it. Um, but it at least allows you. I mean, yeah, all it allows you to do is embed the link into something that looks prettier than the actual link.
This is the easy to remember web
Oh.
address for your YouTube channel.
Oh,
So it
okay.
looks like I can
Okay.
change that
Awesome.
potentially.
Right.
I just deleted the old one, so we'll see what happens.
And you can add a new one. Name Randy.
Yeah, that's one of my fake internet names.
Oh, for sure.
It confuses people who know me. But you know who it's named after, right?
Randy Marsh?
Randy
I
Marsh.
don't know.
That is named
Yeah,
after him, yeah.
for sure.
One of my
Yeah, I don't.
favorite characters on TV.
Yeah. Plus, yeah, I'd struggle to name any other Randy from anything.
Randy
Rand,
Quaid.
um, Randy, who's that?
Randy Quaid.
Oh,
You don't know
related
Randy
to,
Quaid.
is he related to Jack Quaid?
I believe he is related to
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid.
Gotcha. Oh, there's also the pitcher, right? Yeah, the bird killing pitcher. He'd be
Randy
worthy to
Johnson.
name. Yeah, he's worthy to name yourself after, I'd say.
He
But
is. Randy Quaid. I think he's Dennis Quaid's
brother.
brother.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's the older brother of Dennis Quaid. So
Hmm.
he's Jack Quaid's uncle. He's also, he was fairly big Hollywood actor. Um, but he turned into a conspiracy theory conservative
Oh,
weirdo.
he does sort of look like Alex Jones.
So, one of his last big roles was Independence Day.
The first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, dang it.
Yeah, she's in our Hall of Shame now with
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 the
Dwayne
Rock the
The Rock
Dwayne Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah.
Well, do you want to like get together and hang out and then go bowling? Because I
Sure.
mean, we can't get together and hang out on our show.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. I should put a notification on Facebook.
Hmm. Good call. Uh,
You know, we should blame Jamie Lynn Spears for losing the conservatorship.
hmm.
Because if he didn't lose the conservatorship, she wouldn't be posting naked pictures of herself on Instagram.
Right.
Yeah.
True. We're on the opposite side of that now all of a sudden.
Yeah, we're like, she absolutely. Somebody needs to get her in control.
Right. That's funny.
Well,
Um,
I always knew it was going to happen someday. Britney Spears. Britney Spears got us suspended from Twitch. Somebody needs to get her under control. She's crazy.
Man. Yeah, one of my favorite stories was a week was New York Times getting in trouble for an accident, but I don't see them getting any punishment.
Have they been suspended from Twitch?
Yeah, I don't think so. Had they even been suspended from Wordle? I don't think so.
I think that's a pretty funny tweet. Well, I always knew it was going to happen someday. Britney Spears got us suspended from Twitch. Somebody needs to get her under control. She's crazy.
Nice. Oh yeah, you saw the New York Times fetus thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that would explain why I was in the middle of working on a Wordle,
yeah.
and then it just went away.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, I was literally playing Wordle when I think they switched it from fetus to a
Right,
different
right.
puzzle.
Probably
Sh
thinking it was like let us or something. Yeah,
I thought it was penis, but
right.
turns out it was fetus. So hard
Yeah,
to tell a difference between the two. I mean,
right, right.
one's basically illegal,
Yeah,
and the other one can just do whatever it wants, no consequences.
right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen people like kind of semi-seriously pose like, hey, vasectomies are reversible and free. Like, shouldn't we just force all men to have vasectomies until they're ready to have children, you know?
Yeah, and I think in response to that rhetoric, you have a bunch of these states proposing legislation against contraception of any form.
Right. Yeah, IUDs and stuff.
Yeah, IEDs and the pill,
Yeah,
and they're probably also gonna be like, they're gonna somehow criminalize getting a vasectomy,
right.
except they won't because men are
Yeah,
allowed to do whatever
because
they
man.
want.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I don't see how do you make the argument that women are not allowed to prevent pregnancy?
Yeah. Because yeah, they're essentially making the argument now that eggs and sperm are fully living beings.
Yeah. And so we're not even we're you only have one choice in life. You either don't
Yeah.
have sex or you put
Yeah.
yourself at risk of having a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the only two options for women.
Right. Um I mean, it works with their originalism argument where, it's probably how the founding I actually have no idea about that.
Originalism is
Just
so
like
stupid because it's
yeah,
just it the Constitution didn't have anything to say about microwavable foods.
right. Right.
So we can't have any legislation about microwavable foods. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Of course they didn't say anything about microwavable foods. It was the year 1760.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I was just thinking like in terms like was there any sort of contraception devices in 1780 or whatever? Um this is like
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
gonna make a
there
point, but
was.
I
It
don't
was
know.
it was having sex with slaves instead of, white women.
Right. Right.
Consequence-free, child rearing, you know.
Right. Right. Um
You don't want
yeah.
to risk, getting your white lady pregnant and having to raise a child and with all the costs and responsibilities of that. Oh, well, just have sex with the slave.
True.
Easy.
Yeah. Um yeah. Yeah, I just got to the two yeah, stupid great points about originalism. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense logically to an extent, like you pointed out, and also like they maybe weren't the greatest people to copy their ideals in the first place.
Yeah, I
You know?
think I think that's actually kind of I I mean they're both equally valid points against
Yeah, yeah,
originalism, but one I think might be harder to understand for some people, which is like, hey,
right.
morally maybe they weren't perfect, when people are gonna be like, what?
What? Yeah, yeah,
Hey, maybe they weren't the smartest people, huh?
right,
Are you suggesting the founding fathers weren't absolutely perfect in every way?
right.
I mean, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, again, there's that line from It's Always Sunny, which I always love. It's like, why should we let the government of today tell us what to do when the government of 200 years ago already did?
Right. Right. Yeah.
I love that. I love that line. One of my favorite lines of all time from It's Always Sunny, and it didn't come from any of the main characters.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, for sure. Um um do I do wonder why the Democrats, I mean, I'm legitimately wondering because there might be a good reason here. Like, they didn't. I mean, I think the most obvious reason is they just didn't know, but like, why they didn't make like, or maybe they did try and they just failed. Like, try to make abortion a federally legal during the Obama administration when they had the votes. You know.
yeah, I mean, I think the explanation is pretty evident. You have Democratic lawmakers like Joe Manchin.
Yeah, I mean that's the explanation for today. But when they were able to pass Obamacare, you know,
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe even then they felt like the political climate, it was easier to pass something like some form of universal health care than it was
right,
to legislate about abortions.
yeah, right,
Gerrymandering decades ago,
that's true.
you know.
Yeah, um, yeah,
Instead, we just let the Republicans do it for decades before we kind of caught
right,
on, and now it's like it's kind of
yeah.
almost too late.
And I think with both of these points, I'm saying Captain Hindsight, but I'm sure there were people with the foresight at the time, not me, going like, "What the hell? Why aren't we doing this?"
Oh,
You
well,
right?
hey y'all, Roe v. Wade ain't good enough.
Yeah,
We need to get this in federal law
yeah,
and not just, the states' rights law,
yeah,
which is all the Supreme Court did
yeah.
was, you know, but yeah.
I mean, yeah. I just it was conceivable, I think, from a while ago, yeah, that a conservative Supreme Court would try to overturn Roe v. Wade as soon as they at least had a super majority, as they do now, you know.
I mean, there's also Captain
Um,
Hindsight that says, "Hey, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you should retire."
right. Yeah, during a Democratic presidency, because
Uh, uh,
yeah, that's pretty ironic. I mean, to like, even if it's true to like say, like the most pro women's rights, Supreme.
I'm sure I don't want to blame her too much for it. Um, but she probably saw it as a matter of pride and also a matter of responsibility that she stay on the court as long as she could.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
she did have health issues and she was very old.
yeah,
You know, she
yeah. But yeah,
she wasn't thinking like a politician, and
right.
okay, she's a judge. Maybe that's, a good aspect that she wasn't
Yeah,
thinking like a politician, but
right.
she also wasn't able to be forward thinking in that kind of way, you know.
Right. I mean, it's also just makes sense on like a personal pragmatism level like that. Like like resigning is effectively resigning yourself that you're going to die very soon and you're almost like giving in to that, whereas obviously she was trying to fight for her life as much as she could, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Uh,
I'm not that mad at RBG, but I can definitely
right,
see why there are people who are
right,
like, you know,
right,
hey, she should have taken this extra step in protecting, you know, the liberal side of the Supreme Court.
right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yepper.
yep. Um, yeah, I mean, I think packing the court looks totally justified in hindsight now.
Yeah, the risk of packing the court is how do you do it in a way that's not like immediately reversible? Or or just you just have every new administration adding judges to the Supreme Court.
Right.
You know?
I mean, and is that big of a problem if one day we have as many Supreme Court justices as Congress people? I mean, there'll
Well,
still be, you know,
I
that's
think the problem and is just that are we gonna really we're gonna be kind of leaning into the possibility of a court that just keeps changing its opinions on things every 4 years, you know? But I
yeah,
mean that's kind of the
um,
problem with the decision right now is that
yeah,
it's
exactly.
ignoring
Yeah,
precedent. So
yeah,
it would just kind of speed up the perception that of the court being a a joke.
yeah.
You
That's kind
know?
of my point. Is like I agreed. Yeah, I saw. I wasn't incredibly in favor of court packing before this decision. Um,
Yeah, but now
but
now it's like, well, if stupid decisions are going to be if stupid decisions that ignore precedent are going to happen, then,
yeah,
you know, why not pack the court?
yeah,
I was actually have an article I was going to bring up that this was published in op-eds across the country. That's a movement among lawyers that the American Bar Association should demand the resignation of at least the three newest justices on
mm,
the court because they all three said in their court confirmation hearings that they
yeah,
viewed Roe v. Wade as settled law and that
r-
they would respect
right,
precedent,
right.
and that it certainly appears that they
List argument that you know is like too enshrined in law to overturn right now, and they included like Brown versus Board of Education
yeah.
and Roe v. Wade in that sort of super precedence. So yeah, now it's like I just wonder like, so what's I mean, obviously popularity, but like what's the in theologically, you know, intellectually stopping them from going after Brown versus Board of Education, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think they will because that'd be like way less popular than
Well, you know.
right, right. And yeah, the ability to teach a fair education. Yeah. A big fear, I don't know if this has been discussed that much in mainstream media, but it's pretty obviously concerning is that like there's at least before this decision might change it, but it seemed like in there are many people predicting that like in 2024 Republicans will have full control over everything. Um, and in which case they with Roe v. Wade out of the way, they can make abortion federally illegal.
Yeah, again, this is why I believe civil war is totally possible because the way the government is working right now is a tyranny of the minority.
Yeah,
We have allowed the system would already made room for it from the very beginning because of the electoral college,
yeah,
but we have now allowed that to seep into every other aspect of government.
right,
And it may be too much. It may have been a landslide now that you can't reverse. And you would need radical change to do it. And the
right.
only way to do that is to say I have no faith in the federal government.
Yeah.
as it is currently structured.
Right. Yeah. Um yeah, it's uh at least right now it looked like we'd be destined to lose though, because the right is far more radical than the left right now. Um there's a number of radical leftist anarchists that, are gung ho and ready for this, but I think most of us are still like, guns, ew, you know. Yeah, culturally, yeah.
Arguably, culturally is the only place that liberals are winning. If you're talking about pop culture and media,
Sure. Right. But yeah, yeah,
but if you're talking about community level,
right. I mean that would be the advantage on the liberal side, is maybe like they'd have all like the security guards and stuff because of them working for Hollywood, you know. Dave Chappelle, solid security apparently.
well, what would happen is I think the right wingers in places like California would be forced out of California somehow,
Mm.
and there would be a very bad looking but necessary purging of the right wing.
Yeah. That would like, yeah. It might be necessary, but that would also splinter the left, obviously.
Yeah, well, I think the left is going to realize that the only way that the left has a chance of winning against the radicalized right is by uniting, even over the uh, angrier and more violent aspects of protecting itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's another weakness among the left versus right is where uh um arguably part of the reason, Trump got elected is because Bernie Sanders voters were so disappointed they didn't want to vote.
Yeah, and they suck for that reason.
Right.
When I talk about voting, I blame people who don't vote as much as the people who do.
Yeah.
I just made a major post on Facebook after the Supreme Court leak that said voting and even not voting has consequences.
Right. Um
Yeah, and then I was going to talk about how the right wing talks about how much they hate cancel culture and trumpet
right.
the freedom of speech stuff until you say something that they disagree with, and then they try to cancel Disney.
Right. Right. Yeah.
They're not just saying mean things about Disney; they're actually like trying to bully them legislatively
Right.
into giving up their freedom of speech.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's just no way the right wing is going to give up the power that they've accrued willingly.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Right.
So, yeah, something extreme is going to need to happen,
Yeah. Um
and it could be
I
on the
mean,
lighter. It could be on the lighter side of extreme, where you just have certain states saying, you know what, there are certain parts of what the federal government says
cities, and there's little violent consequences over sanctuary cities,
yeah, faith in their federal government, and then the next step after that is seceding from the government.
Yeah. Um Obviously secession is a thing a number of moderates and leftists have, strong feelings against.
There are also right wingers and left wingers that actually 100% agree on
Of
secession.
course. Yeah.
They just disagree about what side of the secession they're on. Like, there are
Right.
right wingers that are like, yeah, I think California should succeed or should secede, and then
Yeah.
we'll have a new right wing government in California. It's like, that's what?
Right. Yeah. But I think if you ask all the senators, every single one of them would go secession. That's crazy.
What do you mean? We just have senators like Marjorie Taylor Greene talk about how we need to insurrect against the
Well,
government.
she's not a senator, but
Same difference.
I mean, yeah, but the House is much more radically left and right than the Senate is, Senate is like just super what do you call it?
I don't know. You have plenty of right wing senators who are like, yeah, January 6th was nothing.
Yeah. Um yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, if Kevin McCarthy might actually get replaced as, speak as leader of the minority party or Speaker of the House when he eventually would become Speaker in the House later this year,
Mm-hmm.
probably, Um, in which case I'd be more scared about that someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene will have leadership in the Republican Party. Right now, yeah, both Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell are pretty anti-extremist, at least in a kind of in a what do you call it? Optic sort of way. And the Democrats too. I mean, Nancy Pelosi would hate the idea of taking on any sort of radical thought like that too. Um, I mean, yeah, like senators, they still hug it out. Like there's the kind of old school like that for the most part, where they actually like each other to some extent.
Who likes
Maybe
each
not
other?
all of them, but it's still that sentiment still exists. You see that with like Kirsten Sinema, even Dianne Feinstein, I think, said something really flattering about the Republicans lately. um, so I think part of the process of seceding would be to mostly replace all our Democratic politicians with more radical ones, which is things progressive groups have been trying to do for years. So we'll see.
I assume you watched the Warriors game.
Yeah.
Some of those penalties on Otto Porter and Jordan Poole were such BS.
Oh yeah.
They called
Yeah.
Porter for a defensive uh uh blocking penalty
Right.
when the guy, I forget his name, the guy from Memphis shoved him with his elbow and arm like 3 separate times, and also was
Yeah.
grabbing his arm, grabbed his arm
Right.
and shoved him, and the ref was behind it. He had a horrible angle on the situation,
Right.
and he called Porter for the
Yeah.
foul.
What he probably could saw because Porter, I mean, yeah, like it was like the one guy was like, I mean, like in all these things like football, there's always mutual contact, and he probably just saw like at the very end of the play, uh Jackson pushes him down, but then like Porter grabs onto his arm, like almost looks like he's trying to bring him down with him.
And then another foul they called on, I forget, I think it was Poole and not Porter.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Was Bane for Memphis had the ball,
Yeah.
dropped it. It was behind Bane, and then Bane leapt forward into Poole's legs, and they called it on Poole.
Yeah.
When I think, if anything, that is a flagrant foul on Bane for leaping at another player's knees. He wasn't even leaping towards the ball. The ball was behind him.
Right. I mean, yeah, I agree that it was a terrible foul call, but I mean, obviously weren't going to think. I mean, it was the same kind of play that took Curry out from Marcus Smart, but if you remember, they didn't call a foul at all there though.
I just think what I'm afraid of is that you're going to have a Memphis team that is looking to hurt somebody tonight. Because they're mad about what happened to Ja Morant, even though I think he grazed his knee with his hand. It was incidental contact from what I saw.
I need to watch that again because
And then earlier in the game, you had Bane leaping at Jordan Poole's knees, away from the ball.
Right.
He was not playing for the ball. He was playing to tackle an NBA player at the knees.
Right. There's another play where Ja Morant was clearly trying to trip Curry, which is not the dirtiest play, but it is like that kind of that's almost an acceptable level of dirty play, but it's still dirty,
So and then Ja Morant tweeted about the break the code thing, trying to turn Steve Kerr's choice of words against the Warriors.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that they're going to come out and they're going to look to be playing not just the physical game, but somebody's going to be out there looking to slap somebody in the back of the head, just like they did.
Yeah.
To Gary Payton.
Yeah.
Leaping into people's knees.
Yeah.
Which means to me, I think if I feel that way, then the refs should probably also have an inkling that they might need to get out ahead of it in tonight's game. And I wouldn't be surprised if you saw an ejection early in the game, just like in game 2.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sounds like Morant has not been 100% ruled out. He's just still listed as doubtful. I'd almost hope he plays, because that would potentially lessen the severity of the hard feelings the team feels, And plus, it's just that's arguably, you take a win on the series via injuries, but it never feels that great to win a series because clearly their best player on the other team got hurt. And it'll just be a much more exciting game, obviously, too, just in an objective sense, if Ja Morant has been the most exciting player to watch in the series. Oh yeah, there was it someone. Oh yeah, you heard about the racist meteorologist?
Yeah. Calling using a gorilla joke.
Yeah.
On Draymond Green.
Yeah.
My dad was thinking about taking a job at St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis.
Yeah.
They were gonna offer him the job, and my dad turned him down.
Oh, because of Memphis.
Yes, because of Memphis, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Number one, we learned that Memphis is ranked as the number one most dangerous city in the United States of America.
Hmm.
Before
Yeah.
it is the number one most crime-ridden large city in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah, it's crazy that it'd be ahead of Detroit and New
Yeah,
Orleans.
you hear about Detroit and you hear about Chicago, and you
Baltimore.
hear about
Yeah.
Baltimore. It's Memphis that leads the way,
Yeah.
per capita. You know,
Right.
and we just moved out of East Palo Alto, Matt. The reason why we moved
Mhm.
out of East Palo Alto was because we didn't want to deal with the crime anymore.
Right. Right.
You know, we were done with the gunshots and the bad actors and the gritty neighborhood and the bullets and the dead bodies
Mhm.
that accrued around the house over time.
Right.
Okay. We didn't want to move right back into that situation. If anything, it's worse in Memphis from all the
Right.
statistics and crime watching, information websites we've read.
Right.
The second part is, and this is a part that I brought up more, was
Yeah.
not only was it a bad neighborhood just in terms of crime statistics,
Yeah.
but it's also the South.
Yeah.
Both me and my dad, are very liberal
Yeah.
in lots of ways. And we would be moving to a town where we would have to be biting our lip most of the time
Right.
or putting ourselves at risk of being shot or stabbed
Right.
or otherwise harassed. You know,
Yeah. Uh. Right. Yeah, I would think at least stereotypical thinking, the racist people aren't the same people. They're two different groups theoretically of people that would harass you and
I think the
like
people that harass you are the ones who drive the big trucks and wear the MAGA hats and carry
right.
guns
Yeah, but I mean um
and knives. I think they are the same
gun
people.
knives even.
Gun knives, yeah, which are a thing
um
apparently.
yeah, apparently.
Thank you, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. Um yeah. Uh I was just saying, like, if you moved into a black neighborhood, you wouldn't have to deal with that kind of harassment at least.
No, you'd have to deal with a different kind of. See, the
That
funny thing is, you would go to the white parts of town and the white
yeah,
restaurants and stuff, and you'd have to deal with people who are being racist against black people,
yeah,
right? And then you go in a black part of town, and then you have to deal with people who are accusing you, a white person, of being racist.
right,
You're being in. We were bad in both positions.
right,
We're too liberal and we're not racist enough for the white people in the area.
right.
And the fact that we're white is a bad thing when we're in the black neighborhoods.
Yeah.
We're not going to win in any situation in Memphis,
Right.
you know?
Um, yeah. Uh, Although, yeah, those experiences, like like my only experience with a black neighborhood ever is in Oakland around Old Oracle Arena. It was perfectly fine in the daytime, at least.
Yeah, how long did you spend? What did you do?
Couple of hours,
Couple of
just
hours?
eating. And then maybe, yeah, maybe not, maybe an hour or so.
Yeah,
Just
I don't know. It's a terrible amount of experience to apply to this situation.
no, of course not. Um, yeah, I didn't mean. I just like saying that's my
Also,
that's
Oakland is
I
better than
have very
Memphis.
tiny I have very tiny lived experience in this field. Is was my point. Um,
Yep.
yeah. Uh, but anyway, I mean, yeah, it makes. I mean, yeah, there's multiple reasons not to go to Memphis. Um,
Memphis also sucks because it's like 3.5, 4 hours away from any other major city.
right.
Like you think, oh, it's in the south. It's a little more dense down there, right?
Yeah.
The cities are closer to each other. That is not true. That is not true. At least for that part of the south.
Right.
Memphis is literally 3.5, 4 hours away from everything else.
Right.
It's 3.5 hours away from Kansas City. It's 4 hours away from Nashville. It's all by itself. You're more isolated in Memphis than we are here we think we're far away from things here in the Bay Area, right?
Right.
I mean, yeah, we have our area, but it's hours to Reno, hours to Vegas, hours to LA,
Yeah.
you know. But man, Memphis is like just as isolated, if not worse.
Right.
And you're in way less of a metropolitan area in Memphis than you are here in the Bay Area,
Right.
you know.
Right. Um, so was has he got other job offers from other cities?
One, he applied to
Yeah.
two different jobs, and uh it sounds like he's going to get job offers from both of them. Like he already got a job, basically got a job offer and turned down Memphis.
Right.
Uh the other one is Penn State.
Oh, which is yeah, I mean obviously Pennsylvania, but
It's in a
it's the
place
city.
it's in a town called State College,
Right.
Pennsylvania.
I know that's like near where the the non-electricity Amish and them live, right?
Not really. State College is central Pennsylvania. Which means it's let's pull up a map here. State College to State College.
Maybe it's
State College to Pittsburgh is 2.5 hours. State College to Harrisburg, which is the capital of Pennsylvania, is an hour and a half. State College to Philly. State College to Philadelphia is 3 hours.
uh-huh.
And you're talking, so Amish part of Pennsylvania, the most famous Amish part is kind of in an area uh, where you'll see names like Lebanon, Lancaster, and
Right.
Reading. And that's
Right.
that's east of Harrisburg. So those towns are about 2 hours away from State College.
Oh, gotcha.
So State College is a little bit isolated, but it's an hour and a half from Harrisburg, which like I said is the capital of Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
and like its third largest metropolitan area after Philly and Pittsburgh, right?
Right.
And it's about 3 hours from Philly and Pittsburgh.
Right.
So it's closer to things than Memphis is. But the other
Right.
the other cool thing is that it is much closer to kind of the heart of the East Coast.
Right.
So it's um it's 4 hours from New York City.
Hmm. Right.
So you could go to New York City for the weekend
Right.
easily.
Right.
Um, it's like It's like 4 hours to New York City. It's like 3.5 hours to Baltimore. 3.5 hours to Washington D.C. 4 hours to New
Right.
York City. So it's kind of cool in that it is kind of isolated. It's kind of a small college town.
Hmm.
Where the population doubles when college is in session. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Um, or when there's a football game happening, the population like triples when there's a football game happening.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Um, but you're also not that far from like actual metropolitan big cities.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But he's probably not going to get paid as well at Penn State as he's getting paid at Stanford.
Hmm.
So the question is it worth leaving Stanford early to move to state college, get paid less, but maybe be closer to where you want to be when you retire?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit more. There's a little bit more, fine detail in that decision that I'm saying right now,
Of
but
course. Yeah.
there's also differences in the retirement package at Penn State versus the retirement package at Stanford and things like that.
Right.
And me, if we moved there, my only worry is that can I still do the things that I want to do while being a little more isolated
Hmm.
out in the middle of Pennsylvania?
Well,
Here
I'm sure. Yeah.
I can go to San Francisco or Oakland
Yeah.
and be in the hustle and bustle and all the concerts and events and stuff that happen between the three big cities we're in the middle of: San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose, right?
Right.
Um, I'm also going to be farther away from tracks for the car.
Right.
Right now, like it's like 2.5 hours to Thunder Hill. It's like an hour and a half to Laguna Seca. 2 hours to Laguna Seca. It's like
Hmm.
an hour and a half to Sonoma. That's three world famous, world class road courses. You know,
Right.
all within a couple hours of where we're living right now.
Right.
And the access is just not going to be quite the same living in the middle of Pennsylvania. I mean, there are road courses out there,
Yeah.
but they're a little bit farther away. And then you also have to deal with weather. That's another issue with moving to Pennsylvania.
Right.
Here in California, we can basically use our racetracks 360 days a year.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the weather's
Yeah.
so good. You go out to the
Right.
east, you can't use the tracks half the year.
Right.
The weather's too severe. It's
Right.
too wet, or it's snowy, or it's icy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then
Right.
the other, but there are some advantages too. I mean, it's living in a smaller town can be kind of cool.
Right.
Uh, you lived in Arcata. There are some benefits to living in a smaller college town.
Right.
There's also a lot of dirt tracks.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that's different there than it is here. There's very few dirt tracks here, within the Bay Area.
Right.
But there are dozens of dirt tracks nearby in
Right.
Pennsylvania. So I guess if I went to Pennsylvania, I'd probably want to get into dirt track racing.
Right. That'd be cool.
Yeah, maybe.
Um.
One of the good things about moving out there would be that maybe either both of us or I decide that I don't want to live in state college.
Right.
But once we're there, it's going to be a lot easier to move to another town, right?
Right.
Because there's so many decent sized to very large cities nearby. Like I said, it's like 3.5 hours, 3 hours, 3.5 hours to Baltimore and DC.
Right.
You know, it's 3.5 hours to Philly. It's 4 hours to New York. You know, those are all
Right.
places I could potentially move, and it wouldn't be that much of a hassle.
Right.
But
For sure.
I don't know. It's a big decision.
Yeah. Uh, yeah.
Have you thought about moving anywhere?
No, not really.
Even not even
Um,
like moving out of the house?
every once in a while, but
You're like, it just doesn't make financial sense. I got a pretty
exactly.
good
Yeah.
thing going.
Yeah. Yeah. I could pay thousands of dollars a month to live on my own, or I could, not pay thousands of dollars a month.
I looked a little bit, and there seemed like there's some pretty nice places not far from here where we could potentially get a place and
Mm,
live together for like $1,000 a month each.
mm,
But still, it's $1,000 more a month than
yeah.
you're currently paying.
Yeah.
Oh, and you'd be moving away from San Jose.
Yeah. Yeah, thing potential for me is like my brother's place has a shed that could be potentially converted into a living space.
Mm. Well, the only problem with the shed is climate control.
Yeah,
Sheds tend to get very hot and also quite cold.
right. I mean,
It's
yeah,
not ideal in that way.
but yeah, California is probably, I mean, around here is one of the
Yeah, if there's a
most
place to do
mitigating
it,
factors.
yeah, if
Yeah,
there's a place to do it, it's the Bay Area.
yeah.
I can just tell you when me and my dad were living in an RV, it would get uncomfortably hot.
Hmm.
Uh, there were a couple times where we would literally go rent a hotel, like a motel room,
Right.
hotel motel
For
room
air conditioning.
during the hottest days of the year just for the air conditioning.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'd be able to, I wouldn't be completely locked out of my brother's house,
Mm.
you know, but I don't know. Uh, but yeah, in terms of sleeping, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Freaking Britney Spears.
yeah. What other silly stories were there? Um,
Oh, the appeal says it's pending. They received my
oh,
appeal.
cool,
Uh,
cool.
yeah. Well, did you want to meet up before bowling or no?
Well, so to you, I don't. Unfortunately, I'm not. I already got food. I ordered lunch for myself. It was huge.
What'd you get?
Uh, some Thai food.
Uh, cool.
But if you wanted to either hang out here or go to In and Out or something, I could do that.
Uh, No, I'd probably just like maybe hang out at McDonald's by the bowling alley,
Okay,
get a
for
nice
sure.
tea or
We
something.
could do that too.
All right.
Yeah, I could.
Do you want to meet up at like 5:45?
Sure, 5:45 sounds good.
All right. See ya.
All right, see ya.